KaleidusFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers have 14 road wins after their 115-107 win Tuesday night at Denver. Luka Doncic messed around and got a triple-double, 38 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists. LeBron dropped 19 points and 8 assists. The Lakers' defense rose up at the right time. Denver made only 3 3-pointers in the second half. Denver guard Jamal Murray had 26 points at halftime. He had just 2 in the second half. The Clippers' 6-game winning streak was snapped in Chicago Tuesday night. They lost to the Bulls 138-110. 24 points and 6 assists for James Harden.
Hi, I'm Tavish Smiley. You may have heard me talk about the new course I'm teaching, The Art of Conversation. Well, it's here, and I'm holding a live free preview session on January 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific. Here's why this matters. For almost 40 years, I've made my living having conversations that count. Presidents, activists, artists, people who've changed the world. And I've learned something in the process. Most folk have no idea how to ask a real question, how to listen, how to create a moment. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, hosting a podcast, or just want to connect better, this changes how you show up. It's free, it's live, and I might have a surprise guest joining us. Here's what you do. Go to TavishTalks.com. That's TavishTalks.com. Scan the QR code, click the registration link, and you're in. It's January 26th, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm keeping this intimate. Don't miss it. I'll see you in class.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Top 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It is Wealthy Wednesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show worldwide with P.L. Silva. Dr. P.L. Silva has over 20 years of experience of backroom diplomacy, mediation, and negotiation. He's taught politics, international relations, and several graduate and undergraduate programs at universities in New York, New Jersey, Long Island, and Queen's University of Belfast, Northern Ireland. Dr. De Silva's publications include postmodern insurgencies, political identity formation, and peacemaking in comparative perspective. He's an experienced director with a demonstrated history of working in think tanks, industry, and academia, the United Nations, political and military affairs, and he's skilled in research, political risk analysis, geostrategy, cultural diplomacy, humanitarian action, and global affairs involving war-affected, deeply divided societies. Dr. De Silva, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and to your show, Worldwide with P.L. De Silva.
Thank you, Jesse. Glad to be on.
I was looking at Senator Ed Markey, who offered a resolution to have the President of the United States removed by virtue of the 25th Amendment. That is the incapacity amendment. And before the show began, you began talking about others who have suggested that the President of the United States in this hour is unhinged. His mental health is clearly on full display. PL?
Yes, it's a sad place for the United States to be in, that you have somebody with so much power, and unfortunately, it's not logical, it's not rational, and all of this doesn't bode well for the future. And 2026 is going to be a come to Jesus time for Donald Trump, with the midterm elections in November And I do believe that the Republicans stand to lose the House and the Senate. And then there'll be a whole load of trouble for Trump. And he's been saying that he's going to get impeached and to please get out the vote. But yeah, he might not last that long if he continues in this fashion, fighting with, our long-term allies and being so fractious with regard to international relations and international policies over Greenland. It just doesn't look, it's so ugly. He's the quintessential ugly American.
And that's quite a statement to make about the president of the United States. But that's, in a real sense, as we commemorate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, Donald Trump, in terms of values, in terms of core beliefs, in terms of the direction of fundamental human rights, he has really become and emerged as the quintessential American. That he is the sum of everything that we are as a nation, and that reckoning that you're saying could very well occur in 2026 is when the American people's values at the ballot box, whether or not they conform or confront the president's values and the direction that they have and the beliefs that they have for the future of our nation. PL, I can't applaud you more for that accurate analysis. I also want to welcome into our program James Felton Keith, an award-winning engineer, economist who was the first Black LGBTQ person to run for the U.S. Congress. He lectures at the New York University in the Big Ideas course series. As an author and activist, his data unions redefined the labor movement and personal data as the net neutral resource, driving all corporate productivity. As an entrepreneur, he established the first international standard certification for corporate diversity and inclusion. His biopolitical philosophy, inclusionism, is at the forefront of human rights advocacy and international relations. And each week he hosts the radio show Inclusionism in New York City. James Felton Keith, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thanks for having me. Guys.
And Worldwide with PL De Silva. We've begun the conversation. Of course, we'll dig into deeper issues when we come forward at the 11 minute past the hour mark. But James, I want to ask you a question about your sense of the president's mental health, his capacity, and his ability to perform the functions of the job.
Well, I've been watching his speech at the World Economic Forum, and a lot of his team members talks earlier today and as they built up towards yesterday. Look, I think there have been a lot of psychologists. I'm an economist, not a psychologist, but there have been a lot of psychologists that talk about how bad off he is for the past few years. But I think his team is using it to their advantage. I do think that his mental health has been degraded, for lack of better words. But I think that it is a strategic opportunity by the people who are behind him, specifically the thinkers at institutions like the Hoover Institute, the Cato Institute, you name it. They are using his dogged nature to steamroll over people, or steamroll over countries rather, to redesign the global order in 3 new poles, if you will, the Russian, Chinese, and American pole. I actually spent this morning on the phone with a bunch of Canadian and French leaders who both talk about how he postured himself versus their prime ministers and presidents, respectively, even poking fun and laughing at Macron earlier this morning. So look, I think Trump is definitely deranged, but I think we've always thought that, so much so that social media and these bot farms are running bots against us to claim that anyone who challenges the president's current state have what they will call Trump derangement syndrome. And it's really bait. It's a switching of our language, our formal language about where he is, to claim that apparently the masses of us are deranged by thinking that his general presentation is dangerous. It's going to get people killed.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is Worldwide with PL De Silva and our very special guest, James Felton Keith. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, KBLA delegation, you know what's better than laughing? Laughing while celebrating the legends who made us laugh in the first place. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to present our annual Black History Month luncheon. And this year, we're honoring comedy greats, trailblazers who broke barriers, and funny bones at the same time.
You had to grow up early when we was growing up because your parents were seen to the store to buy. You was too young to buy. I want you to go to the store, get me a fifth of gin and a pack of cigarettes. Mama, I'm two. They ain't gonna let me have that. Here, take this note. You be a little boy walking down the street with liquor and cigarettes. And your neighbors be going, that's a good little boy right there.
We need a little levity right about now. So we're rolling out the red carpet for comedy royalty. D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Lunel, Dion Cole, Martin Lawrence, and a surprise guest appearance. It's going up Thursday, February 26th in downtown LA at the Grammy Museum. An unforgettable afternoon of stories, celebration, and yes, plenty of laughs. Because let's be real, these legends don't just tell jokes. They have changed the game, opened doors, and made history while making us smile.
You gotta go to child support court. You gotta get there real early in the morning. You see brothers going into court. You see them come out 3 hours later. I can't pay this. Let me talk to you, baby. Please, let me talk to the witness, Your Honor. Let me talk to the witness. Brother be working for 3 weeks, get his check is $43.
This year, for the first time ever, we have set aside a limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon. They are going to go fast, and when they're gone, they're gone. So, if you want a single ticket, or if your company or organization wants to sponsor a table, move swiftly and get to KBLA1580.com right now. All these comedy giants in one room, on one stage, at the same time? Stop it! This event is going to sell out quicker than right now and sooner than at once. KBLA Talk 1580's annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. It's gonna be legendary, just like them.
What's up? What's up?
What's up? You got to laugh the pain away.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Wealthy Wednesday, and welcome to KBLA. Our very special guest in this hour is none other than James Felton Keith. I do have a couple of questions that I'd like to begin our program formally with, and that is, if you don't mind, Dr. De Silva, sharing with us some of your thoughts on the proper and appropriate commemoration in this hour of Martin Luther King Jr.
A great American and a great human being and a wonderful leader who has said so many things that are extremely pertinent for us today as we live in this fractious society that has become America. And I think there are so many lessons that we can learn as we go forward. And the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King are part and parcel of the fabric of what makes America truly great.
James Keith?
Yeah, definitely. I echo what Brother PL has said. What I would say is, in remembering MLK, is how he was received and told at the time of his death in 1968. A lot of America did not like to hear the truth that he was speaking, that we still have to speak now in this new century. So in an effort to not repeat our old mistakes, I'd encourage everyone to research their history, look up some of his old speeches, but also look at the polling and how he was received in last year's.
Somebody's touching something. Whatever you're doing, don't touch it. Please.
Yeah.
I can,
So, yeah.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, No, yeah, look, we're getting ready to move into February and hopefully have a whole month to reflect on, again, how MLK was treated in his last days. But again, I would encourage everyone to go back and look at the polling of how MLK was received in 1968. And again, it is not lost on me that he was not even a 40-year-old man when he was assassinated.
I want to comment on this for just a moment and reflect on it, and then I have some more probing questions because James Felton Keith is also in a campaign for Congress, and I want to find out what he's finding out on the campaign trail, what he has learned so far. But before I get there, I want to comment on the character of Dr. King, and from my perspective, the Christ-like character. It's easy for those of us who are Christians who go to church and say, Jesus carried the sins of the world. Jesus carried the weight and the burden of the world. But we never talk about Jesus's mental state. A man who was willing to carry the weight of the world could easily find himself, and probably regularly found himself, in some Garden of Gethsemane, some depression, some deep, dark space. And of course, he elevated out of that deep, dark space into the kind of leader that we've come to appreciate, and a moral leader, Son of God, and all the attributes that we give to the man who emerged out of that deep, dark space. When I think about Martin Luther King Jr., and I'll say this very quickly, we don't fully appreciate the nature of his personal suffering, his capacity to understand suffering of other people. And I can only think, James, that in this moment, we don't have the kind of leadership today that actually is capable of saying, it's my fault. Yeah. It's my fault, to own the behavior of what's going wrong. I was reflecting upon a conversation I had earlier with some of my own friends who were talking about high property taxes and high this and high that. And I found myself slipping because some of it I said to myself, it's my fault that I wasn't in a position to do something about it. In other words, I'm not prepared to kick the can down the road or blame somebody else. I had solutions that I wanted to bring forward to take the burden off of people. And the fact that those solutions have not been completed, it's my fault. And I wish I could hear more from Congressman James Keith, from senators and from presidents and from moral leaders who own their role that they've played, not just in preaching to us, but acknowledging that some of what, and maybe even more than some of what, a significant amount of what's going wrong in our world, it's our fault. Yeah. And carry the burden of the world, James Felton Keith, that is the beginning of the moral crusade that I think Martin Luther King Jr. is identified with. James Felton Keith?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. One thing I like to say, even if we put ourselves up for leadership roles, one of the burdens of leadership is, even if it's a community's fault or a systematic fault, it is necessary for the leader to absorb some of that blame. A quote that I like to use a lot is that we are responsible yet not guilty. And it is necessary for society to reckon with itself, for communities, whether they be small or large, to reckon with themselves by assuming some level of responsibility, even if they exist in a broader system that might be more guilty of their current state. I think that one thing that MLK was available to do, one thing he was available to do in the vein of Jesus and what Jesus' story is told him that he was available to do, was to absorb a lot of that responsibility. And the problem with the leadership that we have available, not only in this country, but in most places these days, is that they're not available to absorb and acknowledge the responsibility that we have as custodians of this place, of this planet, of each other. It's a moral calling, and quite frankly, the morality that used to exist in not only American politics, but other politics seems to have gone away.
And we've been replaced by a blame culture. if you will.
Everyone's pointing. There's that Spider-Man meme that everyone uses where everyone's blaming everyone else. And quite frankly, I'll just add, I think when leaders are available to absorb responsibility, I think that their followers, their community, their voters are more than willing to work with them, to see the humanity in that. Trump is, as to having the loudest microphone, not only in the United States, but on the planet right now, is teaching a generation that you can get away with just finger pointing and accepting no blame for anything. And it may not seem like it, but it is trickling down to the leaders on the right and the left, where everyone is just pointing, and it's turning into such salacious banter around how we actually fix the problems that we are, I would say again, responsible but not guilty for. We still have to work on these things. Even if we didn't create the problems as they exist today, we have to accept responsibility to work on them. And there's no one telling us that we have to. That it has not been our ethic in this time, in this generation. And that's the real tragedy.
James, you decided to put your hat in the ring to run for Congress. And I'm assuming that part of that ethic is that you are prepared to carry the burden of other people, their health care, their taxes, their security, their schools. Share with us that pivotal moment where you made that decision.
Oh, wow. I believe it was at this point about 10, maybe 9 or 10 years ago. And it just came from seeing the suffering around me and my community. I grew up in poor communities. I live in poor communities. I still live in central Harlem right now. I grew up on the west side of Detroit. And again, it makes me think about the ethic that my grandmother gave me. She was a Muslim woman, but she was really the one telling me that you are responsible even if you're not guilty. It is your responsibility to work on these problems. The moment I decided that I would participate is when I would lobby our current elected officials with tools and tactics that they can use, and even support that I would bring to them, whether it be financially or otherwise, and they were unable to hear it. They didn't feel like there was enough incentive to work on our hyper local problems. So I think for any of us who feel like out there in the world, any of us listening to this show who feel like it is our responsibility, you may not have all the answers today, but I think it is worth starting to participate today, to build your base and figure out how to actually make the changes that you want to see. I think about 10 years ago, I realized I was just getting older, and it was time to participate in a more deliberate way. So now I'm here.
Congratulations on that. You know, to be moved.
You get old. Yeah.
Suffering humanity.
Yeah.
To see it and then to be compelled to do something about it is to be in a valley, and to offer people hope is to imagine the idea of a mountaintop. And to dedicate yourself to that proposition is what Dr. King understood better than most. It isn't just about the last speech he gave or the intonations in the way he gave it. This man understood suffering and was capable of carrying and willing to carry the burden of people who could not speak for themselves. And he was all right with that. He was satisfied with that. And he was comfortable in that space. I can't get out of my mind a clip that Gina played yesterday on the show, and it was at the hour that he was receiving the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah.
He did not accept it on behalf of himself, but the 20 million Negroes in America who were weathering the long, dark night of the consequences of slavery, discrimination, racism, militarism, materialism, who found themselves permanently trapped in a situation. And he decided to give eyes and ears and tongue and sensibilities and sensory central nervous system energy to articulating and being that person in that space for us in that hour, and no one could articulate it better.
I agree. Well, the thing is that now there's 40 million of us. And we're in arguably even more dire state from a property, from an income, from a social and economic power standpoint. Um, Again, because of what I would assume are about 2 generations of a lack of a sense of responsibility. So we got a lot of work to do. We basically have to rebuild Black infrastructure to survive in this country. And it will be a roadmap for anyone looking to participate outside of this country. You know, when I think about the great leaders of the African National Congress who are finally in control of South Africa, their first president, there was a great book written about him, was a follower of everything that Booker T. Washington did. And then fast forward many, many decades, Nelson Mandela was regularly referencing what MLK was doing. Black people being of a consistent minority in this country are the loudest voice because of how we interact with media to the rest of the world of how to, if it at all possible, climb out of the grave that we were seemingly born into. And so I think we have to carry the torch and be as loud of voices as we can about our responsibility for a situation that we are not necessarily guilty for. So,
James, you're in New York. Mayor Mamdani was successful running a campaign on the questions of affordability. What have you been seeing for New Yorkers, and what are you seeing across this country?
Well, he's a week or two in. I actually lead a coalition here that's fighting for a housing subsidy uptown because we've had a lot of displacement, about 60,000 Black individuals in particular in Harlem. And I think what we're seeing is a boat of hope that things are possible. I think for so long we thought that it was really impossible to get things done. And so we haven't seen a lot of the property and opportunities transpire yet because, again, we're about a week or two in. But I see a whole lot more hope, not only uptown, but across the city about what we can achieve. And there are a lot more offers of hands on deck. And I think that's what's necessary. There's a lot more people taking responsibility for the circumstance, again, that we are not necessarily guilty for. And so I'm hopeful about what we'll be able to achieve. Mamdani has appointed a few of our partners who are on this. We have an interfaith commission for housing equality, and they're right there front and center discussing how we attack affordability, at least from a housing standpoint, but we're also focused from an education standpoint, from a healthcare standpoint, and from a direct income standpoint. There's a new conversation about guaranteed incomes that MLK was also a champion of, which has not been a conversation in the biggest, wealthiest city in America. But it is a new conversation that needs to be had with some dignity about why we're owed this income. And that's new.
It certainly is. And I haven't heard it beyond New York, but New York tends to be a trendsetter, given that before the Mamdani election, we hadn't heard very much about affordability until he shocked the Democratic Party and its establishment. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to Worldwide with P.L. Da Silva and our very special guest, James Felton Keith. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is shutting down rumors that the city plans to buy back its parking meters.
The final purchase price was far too high, much more than we initially received for the sale.
He says his team explored the idea but found it too expensive. Johnson also noted the meters were recently sold to another company for more than the original 2008 deal, which topped $1 billion. The Supreme Court appears skeptical of the Trump administration's authority to fire Black Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. Justices questioned her August removal over mortgage fraud allegations. Cook remains on the job as the court weighs a decision later this year. And a federal shift on marijuana is reigniting debate at the Tennessee Capitol. Black Democratic State Representative Antonio Parkinson is backing a proposal to let adults grow marijuana at home, while Republican Senator Farrell Hale is calling for a study on medical marijuana. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers have 14 road wins after their 115-107 win Tuesday night at Denver. Luka Doncic messed around and got a triple-double, 38 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists. LeBron dropped 19 points and 8 assists. The Lakers' defense rose up at the right time. Denver made only 3 3-pointers in the second half. Denver guy Jamal Murray had 26 points at halftime. He had just 2 in the second half. The Clippers' 6-game winning streak was snapped in Chicago Tuesday night. They lost to the Bulls 138-110. 24 points and 6 assists for James Harden. Next game for the Clippers is Thursday night against the Lakers at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Chargers are negotiating with former Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel to be their new offensive coordinator. If contract talks don't break down, McDaniel will replace Greg Roman. Roman was fired January 12th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. Let's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the Southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Wealthy Wednesdays and Worldwide with Dr. P.L. De Silva. Our very special guest in this hour is James Felton Keith. And just before we go back to our very special guest, the founder of Inclusion Score and author of Inclusionism, Gina has a clip that she'd like us to play. She's not ready for the clip right now. Anyway, let me ask James Felton Keith another question. James, Trump took $1.25 million from your organization that Biden had promised, and now you have to raise money outside of the country. Tell us a little bit more about Inclusion Score and how our supporters, our listeners, can be supportive of your organization and how they can reach you.
Yeah, so just at the top of this year, Trump shut off money that we were promised by Joe Biden in 2024 that was supposed to materialize. Now, so if anyone is not familiar, the International Organization for Standards, which really stood up after World War II, exists to create a consensus or standards for how we do everything. There's a standard for the textiles in your shirt. There's a standard for the fuel in your vehicle, you name it. And as of 2021, there's a standard for diversity, equity, and inclusion and how we implement it at organizations. By organizations, I mean everything: cities, companies, universities, you name it. It's ratified across 163 countries. And my company, Inclusion Score, serves as the certifying body in 32 countries on 5 continents. And the Biden administration was leveraging the success of our use of the standard in different types of organizations to push it through American trade associations specific to STEM, like the American Society for Mechanical Engineers, Civil Engineers, you name it. And it had created a faith, which the American government often does with its investment, and a snowball effect across the globe for other countries and companies to invest in this. Trump just shut off what Biden promised, and it's really putting even our campaign into question because there's only enough time in a day, and you know this from running for office, it costs about $1 million. And so there's enough time to have conversations in a day to raise that money to either run for office or to scale this global work. So I've spent the past week with a lot of advisors, attorney general, a couple of governors, a 4-star general, a mayor of a big American city, a few diplomats, to really explore what they thought would be the most impactful to what we were talking about earlier, to kind of take responsibility for our current situation, which we may not necessarily be guilty for. And so we've got some decisions to make, but yeah, Trump stole more than $1 million from the global community that was implementing the global standard for DEI in not only corporate America, but corporate world. I just happen to be the chair of that organization, which we call Inclusion Score for short, but the mouthful is the ISO 30415 Diversity and Inclusion Service Management Forum. I know that's a mouthful.
It is. How can you support your organization?
I would go to inclusionscore.org, or I would Google ISO 30415. People can get trained. People can join us. Look, we're working with, governments in Canada and France and South Africa and India and Mexico and Peru and business leaders in all those places, all the 27 European states right now. I think what I would say to push back against Trump is to use the standard in this post-DEI world to reestablish how we get, at the very least, engagement and belonging, or what some people just call fairness in capital distribution. That's what we're really about. So if people check us out at inclusionscore.org, they can see what we do, how we do it, and where we do it. But it's a global movement to really establish what I like to call inclusionism. I think capitalism is hacking itself into a more inclusive state because it is absolutely necessary for it to stay afloat. We have to include women. We have to include Black people. We have to include all the various people of color, disabled people, pregnant people, all the 27 protected classes, in order for the economy to buffer itself. So yeah, everything we do is at inclusionscore.org, but I think the support comes from companies and government officials being willing to stand up and say, we absolutely need a deliberate type of equity and inclusion if we're going to sustain the economy that we've become accustomed to.
PL, let me ask you a question. I got this New York Times article, I think it is, that you sent me. We're going to come back to that in a moment. I think Gina has a clip that she'd like to play right now.
Someone needs to stand up and say, damn it, what we have in common matters more. We cannot throw the legacy of this country away. We cannot destroy other people's trust in us. We need to preserve that and find a way to work together and not humiliate other people just so we can win. We got to just calm down and try to pull people together again. That's what I think.
PL, I found that interesting in that when you sent me this article, this could end very badly. A human rights lawyer fears a new age of impunity.
Yeah.
Philip Sands, one of the world's preeminent human rights attorneys who grew up in the shadow of a very bleak time, share with us why that is so important and why we need to understand that right now.
The question that we have to ask as people who are believers, who believe in a greater good, who believe in God, what makes us different from the beasts in the jungle? What makes us human? What's our empathy? And these are things that are incredibly important. So if you use power with impunity and you crush the little people, you're neither Christian nor a good person. You're just another imperialist, a colonialist, things that we have seen in the past of human history, which has gone badly for the people who have been affected. Just look at this country alone. There was a genocide that got rid of the indigenous people from this country. And there have been many such genocides all over the world, and most recently in Gaza, with the Israelis carrying out what we would call the Gaza genocide. And they're doing it with impunity, supported, aided, and abetted by the United States of America. And this is not good. It's not good for our psyche. It's not good for our spiritual well-being. And all people who are believers, we need to stand up. Believers or non-believers, we need to stand up for what is right. You know, when we were little, we were told what was right and what was wrong. And now it's the inverse. What's wrong is right and what's right is wrong. It's just a crazy way of doing things. And it's like gangsters are running the show, you know, the robber barons.
They are.
PL, will you comment on what President Clinton had to say in that clip about the need to stand up?
Yes, we the people who want to see good things happen and who are unapologetically progressive, we need to come together. We need to stand shoulder to shoulder and make sure that this country does not devolve into chaos, which is where we're heading if Trump is allowed to do everything that he's doing without any control. And that's why the midterm elections are so important, so that we stand shoulder to shoulder, we go and we vote with our conscience.
I do see inclusionism as a movement towards acknowledging that historically our system, James, locked people out, and now we are fighting not only domestically but globally to let them in. James?
Yeah, look, I think we have to be deliberate about letting them in. Again, it's the only thing that sustains us. It's really about growing, that movement of progressive inclusion. My only issue with Bill Clinton and the clip is he should be the one standing up and doing it. He's a man of faith. He's a former leader of this nation. We need a direct opposition. And sometimes it's people with the loudest megaphone or the most famous people in the room that have to be the one to blow the whistle or ring the bell, if you will. So,
you know, I've been reading a book by Jack Harden called Project 2025 Manuscript. I've also been looking at the Innovative Strategies for National Success, Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation. and Project 2025 Explained, chapter by chapter. And I'm wondering, and I want to talk with both of you about this when our show comes forward. I'm wondering, when are we going to see a Democratic version, Project 2028, that is as detailed about where we're going as this is detailed about where they are trying to take us to? More from Jesse Jackson Jr. on the KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take Dayquil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the Dayquil.
Undo your flu symptoms with Dayquil Intense Flu. Dayquil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
Dayquil Intense Flu, the daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley. You may have heard me talk about the new course I'm teaching, The Art of Conversation. Well, it's here, and I'm holding a live free preview session on January 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific. Here's why this matters. For almost 40 years, I've made my living having conversations that count. Presidents, activists, artists, people who've changed the world. And I've learned something in the process. Most folk have no idea how to ask a real question, how to listen, how to create a moment. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, hosting a podcast, or just want to connect better, this changes how you show up. It's free, it's live, and I might have a surprise guest joining us. Here's what you do. Go to TavisTalks.com. That's TavisTalks.com. Scan the QR code, click the registration link, and you're in. It's January 26th, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm keeping this intimate. Don't miss it. I'll see you in class.
It's a classic odor tale. You fried fish for dinner, cleaned up, but the smell is still in the house. And the neighbors are coming over for game night. They're on their way. And then you spray Febreze Air Mist. Febreze Air starts working instantly to fight even your toughest odors, so you go from fish to fresh like that. Now, all you have to worry about is Pam cheating at charades.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Wealthy Wednesdays and Worldwide with P.L. Da Silva, who has over 20 years of experience in backroom diplomacy, mediation, and negotiation. He's the co-founder with Professor W.D. Lakshman of the University of Colombo of the International War-Related Trauma and Humanitarian Intervention Trust, setting up psychosocial training programs for practitioners serving combatants, non-combatants during Sri Lanka's civil war. PL, welcome forward to the show. And James Elton Keith is our very special guest, an award-winning engineer and economist who was the first Black LGBTQ person to run for the U.S. Congress. He lectures at the New York University in the Big Ideas course series, As an author and activist, his data unions redefined the labor movement and personal data as a neutral resource driving all corporate productivity. James Felton Keith, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, guys.
Gentlemen, while I have you both for the remaining few minutes of the show, and James Felton, you need to know that we reserve the last 2 or 3 minutes of our program for our very special guest to give the nation a word of hope. So I'll give you a moment to think about that. I need to hear some answers to this Project 2025 thing, PL, as you keep talking about let's vote. We've got to vote. We need a vote in order to stop Donald Trump's movement against the people. But the fact of the matter is, I'm trying to hold this up as best. Here we go. I got to hold it closer to myself for those of you who are viewing the podcast. I've got several of these Project 2025 books. What I didn't fully appreciate is just how detailed it is in every sector of the government where they have sought to dismantle it. They're just not doing this ragtag. They are following a blueprint. Now, I want to know, where is the Democratic Party Project 2028 blueprint, department by department, agency by agency, office by offices, clandestine, covert, overt, wherever this stuff is taking place that Donald Trump has done, that restores some trust and some honor to the people's government? Who's running on an alternative platform and not just their personality? Why don't we start with P.L. De Silva?
Unfortunately, it was the Heritage Foundation and others that put so much of money before Trump got elected. And they actually interviewed how many? 55,000 people before Trump got elected to put them in various slots in his administration. And they spent a lot of time, energy, and money to come up with this Project 2025. Some people thought it was and they didn't kind of take it seriously, but it is serious, and we can see the effects of this. Project 2025 is a giant wrecking ball for what we know as the United States of America. Unfortunately, the Democrats are not up to speed. There is no program. And that's the problem. That in order to counter something so thorough and so detailed, there has to be a counterpoint, and that has not happened on the Democratic side, and they seem to be all in disarray, and that is a huge problem. So yes, they may win the midterms, and they may win elections thereafter, after Trump, but it'll take 30 years at least to restructure the whole of the federal government system. That's what Rear Admiral Norman Robert Hayes said. That in his estimate, he was director of the National Security Agency's Operations Center at the NSA, and for 30-something years he was an intelligence professional, retiring as the director of intelligence at the European Command. And he said it'll take 30 years at least to try to put the federal government back together again after Trump is gone.
He made that statement having seen the president's behavior in a single year.
Yeah.
With 3 more years to go, we may be 60 years, we may be 90 years away. So the question I have, and then I'm going to direct it to James. PL, you hit a point that just about threw me out of my chair. They interviewed 55,000 people that they brought to the government with them. And while we're watching this tweeting clown show every single day, there are 55,000 people who now work for the government who are carrying out the agenda of this plan. I have not heard a single Democrat say that we are going to come to Washington with 55,000 people we have interviewed, ready to replace them and point our union in a different direction. James Felton Keith, congressional candidate. I'm putting some heat on you.
It's a hell of a question. I will say this. I think the proper project that we need to coin, and some of my peers have been working on it, where these mid-40s folks who feel like this is our responsibility, but we're going to project 2029, not 28, because that's when we would come into power, similar to them focusing on 25, not the election of 24. And some peers of mine have organized a political action committee to do exactly what Project 2025 did, per what PL mentioned, called the American Equity First. And they have a few IEs that they're working on, like equity, Democrats, et cetera. And they think that the core word is the term equity. And if you notice in Trump's administration, from the Department of Justice to the Department of Defense, or now the Department of War and others, they've deliberately attacked that idea of equity. If we're going to have a democracy that is formidable, that can stand itself up over and over and over again after attacks from a consolidated conservative group, then we have to adequately distribute equity throughout the economy. And that means something quite different than what we would normally talk about with regards to equality. Equality is a bit more abstract, but equity is tangible, it's definable, it's an incentive to be at the table, even if I don't like you and your perspective at the table. And so what we've been devising based on my platform is, first and foremost, how we distribute that equity. And I think that our best playbook for Project 2029 is really coming out of the EU. And what they've done first and foremost is establish a new property right to give everyone a piece of the productivity running away from us. The second thing is a large data tax to basically rein in all the companies and governments that have run amok away from us and taking our productivity away, meaning they're mining our data, they're building productive companies, and they've locked us out from a wage standpoint. Wages are no longer the trick. And last but not least, and we'll see this around 38 of our US states, 38 states at 2020 ratified the Equal Rights Amendment. And in 2024, Joe Biden acknowledged it, but he didn't do anything with it. So the last but not least thing that we need to ensure that our deliberate equity and inclusion is cemented in 2029 is a series of leaders, not just a president, a series of leaders that have the audacity to do something. And by being audacious, I mean things like jail Trump and his cronies. I mean things like ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, not only at the federal level, but allowing each state to exert its state rights to protect the people in that state. And then last but not least is to distribute, not redistribute, but distribute the equity that we're already owed from this productive economy. We think that there's a way to break that out in detail in the way that Project 2025 did. We have some books forthcoming, but I would look up the American Equity First PAC. It plans to publish a lot more detail on this. But again, if we elect another Joe Biden, who I used to generally like, or Hillary, or even Barack or Kamala, and they fail to do things like jail the culprits of Project 2025 and indemnify people for their valuable contribution to this economy, then we lose everything. And so we see this.
James Felton Keith, a man after my own heart, talking about constitutional amendments and ratifying the ERA. I filed it 12 times when I was in the Congress of the United States. Yeah. You've been listening to Worldwide with PL De Silva. PL, thank you for being on the show. And thanks. I want to thank James Felton Keith for being on the show as well.
Thanks, guys.
More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. Wealthy Wednesdays with Dr. S. Todd Yeary is up next.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is shutting down rumors that the city plans to buy back its parking meters.
The final purchase price was far too high, much more than we initially received for the sale.
He says his team explored the idea but found it too expensive. Johnson also noted the meters were recently sold to another company for more than the original 2008 deal, which topped $1 billion. The Supreme Court appears skeptical of the Trump administration's authority to fire Black Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. Justices questioned her August removal over mortgage fraud allegations. Cook remains on the job as the court weighs a decision later this year. And a federal shift on marijuana is reigniting debate at the Tennessee Capitol. Black Democratic State Representative Antonio Parkinson is backing a proposal to let adults grow marijuana at home, while Republican Senator Farrell Hale is calling for a study on medical marijuana. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers have 14 road wins after their 115-107 win Tuesday night at Denver. Luka Doncic messed around and got a triple-double, 38 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists. LeBron dropped 19 points and 8 assists. The Lakers' defense rose up at the right time. Denver made only 3 3-pointers in the second half. Denver guard Jamal Murray had 26 points at halftime. He had just 2 in the second half. The Clippers' 6-game winning streak was snapped in Chicago Tuesday night. They lost to the Bulls 138-110. 24 points and 6 assists for James Harden. Next game for the Clippers is Thursday night against the Lakers at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Chargers are negotiating with former Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel to be their new offensive coordinator. If contract talks don't break down, McDaniel will replace Greg Roman. Roman was fired January 12th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Tavish Smiley. You may have heard me talk about the new course I'm teaching, The Art of Conversation. Well, it's here, and I'm holding a live free preview session on January 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific. Here's why this matters. For almost 40 years, I've made my living having conversations that count. Presidents, activists, artists, people who've changed the world. And I've learned something in the process. Most folk have no idea how to ask a real question, how to listen, how to create a moment. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, hosting a podcast, or just want to connect better, this changes how you show up. It's free, it's live, and I might have a surprise guest joining us. Here's what you do. Go to TavishTalks.com. That's TavishTalks.com. Scan the QR code.